Overall, our approach is very much as my colleague from the European Union delegation, Antonio, mentioned earlier. We want to continue projecting and underlining the significance of this balanced approach of fiscal consolidation, of growth-based initiatives, and of further integration within the Union. I think this balanced approach is the only way that we can deal effectively with this crisis and set the foundations for the future, so that at the end of the 6-month period we'll be in a better position than we are now. Of course, the Union has done quite a lot already. The European Council of last month, I think, took significant decisions which have been welcomed by many, including by the markets. That's an unpredictable factor in our lives these days, which helped to break this cycle of increasing indebtedness, sovereign debt, the situation of the banks and so on, and at the same time the growth package and greater integration, the banking with decisions for greater banking supervision and the creation of a single banking authority. So we'll work for that. And again, I mentioned the enlargement before, so I will not repeat that, but that Cyprus's position in where it is underlines the significance of the role of the European Union in dealing with global challenges, particularly in our region, and we've heard that mentioned repeatedly here by the panelists. Our aim is to try, as the Presidency of the Union, to promote further the European neighbourhood policy. It is a policy that is of great importance, and it has the eastern and southern dimension. I will reinforce and concur with what my colleague from the European Union delegation said about the eastern dimension of the partnership, more for more. We are aware that countries in the region have greater European ambitions, and since this is a process, it's up to them to continue with their efforts to come closer to the Union, and the Union will do its best to assist in that direction, and that includes the process as well. Now, given the developments in the Eastern Mediterranean, a lot of focus from our side will be given to the southern dimension. The European Union, as Ambassador Volker said, is an essential contributor to problem solving. And that goes for the countries of the Arab Spring. The crisis in Syria focuses our attention to the great challenges that we have to face. Cyprus is the nearest European Union country to Syria, and we will be working closely with our partners in the Union and with the High Representative, Baroness Ashton, in setting the foundations of various initiatives of how to deal with that crisis and be prepared for various eventualities. Because of our position, Cyprus has been used in the past as a staging post, both towards the Middle East, but also out of the Middle East. And it is not something that will surprise us if Cyprus again becomes a center of relief operations and evacuation operations from the area, and we have taken measures to be prepared for that. Now, Cyprus, Israel, hydrocarbons, and the Eastern Mediterranean. But we have, over the last few years, approached the issue of energy with great caution and great seriousness. First of all, we sought to formulate very sound legal foundations for whatever we do. So all our actions are consistent with the spirit and letter of international law with regard to this matter. So the delimitation of exclusive economic zones and the conclusion of agreements with our neighboring countries has been consistent and on the basis of the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. There's no question about that. And the exclusive economic zone of Cyprus is the exclusive economic zone of the Republic of Cyprus for the whole of the island. And I know there was no intention, but there were some inaccuracies on the map that was put up indicating a zone that was under so-called Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Of course, that is not a valid zone or a valid entity for that matter, as it is an entity that was condemned as legally invalid by the Security Council of the United Nations. Thus, I just wanted to correct that and underline that the whole of the exclusive economic zone of Cyprus is one and belongs to Cyprus. Of course, the exploration of hydrocarbons would be to the benefit of all the citizens of Cyprus. But given the continued occupation of Cyprus, the only practical way that we can see that will ensure for certain that all Cypriots will benefit from that is through a solution of the Cyprus problem. And we sincerely hope that the prospect of significant revenue from the hydrocarbon exploitation will act as a catalyst for solving the Cyprus problem at the earliest opportunity. And we, in the negotiations, we have had many challenges and we have still many disputes and disagreements. But one of the things that was agreed, I must say, was that the hydrocarbon in a federal Cyprus, it would be the central authority, the central government, that will be responsible for the exploitation of the natural resources in Cyprus's exclusive economic zone. Until that time, it is the government of the Republic of Cyprus that is the competent authority for proceeding with the exploitation of those resources. And we very much regret the continuing threats, provocative actions by Turkey as regards these efforts by Cyprus and its groundless claims for rights in what is clearly within the Cyprus exclusive economic zone. I think many countries in the world, practically everybody, including this, the government here in the United States, have underlined that it is Cyprus's sovereign right to explore and exploit its energy resources in its area. That is, as it was put to me in a number of occasions, the situation was looked in 60 different ways, and we come to the same conclusion. This is Cyprus's right. I think that is important because it provides confidence for the exploitation of natural resources in the area. And we, of course, cooperate with Israel for this, but it's not only with Israel. As I mentioned, we have completed an agreement with Egypt, is in force, with Lebanon, ratified by Cyprus. We hope to be ratified by Lebanon as well. There is a dispute there, not between Cyprus and Lebanon, but there is a dispute about the precise delimitation of the line between Lebanon and Israel. And again, these developments can act in a positive way as well. They have a potential for instability, but they have also provide an opportunity for positive actions. And there, Cyprus has sought to act as a positive interlocutor to both sides, and we are hopeful that the dispute between the two friends, Lebanon and Israel, will be resolved in an amicable way, so that they can proceed unimpeded to the exploration of their resources. There is certainly going to be cooperation between Cyprus and Israel. One of the finds in the Cyprus exclusive economic zone, the Aphrodite field, can extend on both sides of the line dividing the zones of the two countries. So you have to get an agreement for collaborating in exploiting a field that extends on both sides. If you recall, one of the excuses that Saddam Hussein used back in 1990 for invading Kuwait was that Kuwait was stealing oil from Iraqi oil fields, and those oil fields were extending on both sides of the border. So that aside, we look forward to this collaboration with Israel. There are ongoing negotiations on a number of issues. Israel is looking at its options very carefully, and one of the options is collaboration for a common pipeline to the shores of Cyprus, and the possibility of an LNG plant there. I think it's important to underline that the export potential of these finds in the Eastern Mediterranean is of great significance, not only economically, that it will bring a lot of revenue, but I think for reasons of political and strategic stability. The involvement of third countries, be it as developers or as markets, is of enormous significance in leveraging their influence to bring stability in the area and maintain the prospects for cooperation on a regional basis open. The significance of these energy finds, I think, are obvious for our countries in the region, but also don't underestimate their significance for the energy security of the European Union, and that was alluded to before. One of the fundamental objectives is to diversify the sources and routes of energy, and this is providing an entirely new source of energy, which is not the usual Middle East, it's not the usual Central Asia or the Caspian region, but the Eastern Mediterranean, an area, in the case of Cyprus, that already belongs to the European Union. So, of evident significance. Any country can demonstrate its interest in being involved in the explorations of our hydrocarbons. It does not preclude any country. I just wanted to make one thing clear so that there are no misunderstandings. There was mention about the role of Russia. Of course, Russia has its enormous interest vis-à-vis Europe and the energy supply of Europe. In Cyprus, we have had very good political, economic, cultural relations with Russia. Its interest in Cyprus, though, should not be seen as a kind of attempt to fool Cyprus in giving something away, and an interest on the part of Russia to assist economically Cyprus is not as a quid pro quo for something that has to do with our energy assets. As an example, I would mention the second round of licensing that was concluded in May, where we have seen very significant international interest. not many Russian companies showed that interest. So I think we should put these concerns into perspective and not over-exaggerate. I am conscious of the time, so I will end by saying that all these issues are of great importance for Cyprus, but they pale in comparison to our primary objective. And our primary objective has been, is, and will continue to be the ending of the current situation of Cyprus, of foreign occupation and continuing division. That is the top priority. For Cyprus, we are committed to our utmost in the context of the UN framework and for that, so that Cyprus can be reunited again in a federal form as a bizonal, bicommunal federation, but a federation, as we heard before, not a confederation, and that has been, I think, at the root of the lack of progress up to now, especially in the last couple of years since the change in the Turkish Cypriot leadership, where any convergences that we had seen before were either not amplified or even we have seen some backtracking and abandoning of those convergences. And the essence of the matter is that we need to be true to the agreed basis. And I repeat, that is bizonal, bicommunal federation. We can have different views with Turkish Cypriot compatriots about particular aspects of the settlement, but I think you would agree with me that if we have an agreed basis, the different positions must be consistent with that agreed basis. And at the end of the day, the key for a solution to the Cyprus problem lies in Ankara, by virtue of its military, political, and economic position in the occupied part of Cyprus, where Turkey is the determining factor. And we hope that it will, that Ankara will see that it is to its best known interest as well to have a resolution of the Cyprus problem, and that Cyprus, a member of the European Union, will be the best partner of Turkey with the day after the occupation ends, and push forward for common interest in the region. So with that, I thank you, and I ask you to do your own little bit for the sake of Cyprus, Europe, United States, and the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. This does conclude this day's program. I'd like to again have a big round of applause, please, for our panelists and for the ambassador for coming down here today. We heard from their analysis and their expertise regarding the next 6 months period of Cyprus's EU presidency and the manifold issues that will be in front of it. However, let's remember one thing. Ambassador R. Nicholas Burns, a number of years ago, when he was the #3 man at the State Department, said, Cyprus is important to the United States because it's a friendly country, quote unquote. It is also anchored in the West, and since 1974, and even before, it always supported U.S. strategic interests in the region. It's been called a stationary aircraft carrier. That again illustrated its important strategic location, which one of the main topics of discussion we had here today. It was very important during the Iraqi wars, the 2 wars, by virtue of what it gave to the Allies, overflights, and other strategic issues that it had. Today you have American ships who are deployed in the area who for R&R come to the port of Limassol and are able to spend with safety and security their time there. But Cyprus has also been called the lighthouse of the European Union. That is to keep out of harm's way, by definition of what a lighthouse does, regarding Europe's borders. However, it has also been talked about the potential for the instability of the region. Well, who creates the instability in the region? They said that potentially it could be Lebanon, it could be Syria, it could be Egypt. Those have not manifested themselves, frankly, as it relates to that region. It could in the future. But the one country that does manifest itself and continues to do so, and therefore creates problems for stability of the region, is Turkey. By virtue of being 38 years of illegal occupation of the island, which by therefore threatens U.S. and Western strategic interests of the region, and by its bellicose and provocative actions, as it has shown during the course of the last year or so, regarding its provocative actions off the southern coast of Cyprus. So the question lies, as the EU presidency comes and goes, and before we know it, it will come and go, because it's a baseball season. It's 6 months. And I'm sure Cyprus will navigate this with great eloquence. But once the EU presidency leaves of Cyprus, the Cyprus issue will still be there. And so I challenge the European Union and NATO for the next chapter down the road, and when Turkey escalates potentially those actions off the coast of Cyprus and in the area, and how it will act. Because that will be then the true colors of what NATO stands for and what the EU stands for. And that still is a test that we look forward to seeing the reaction of those countries, hoping, of course, that we never have to come to that. And, of course, by extension, how the U.S. will react to this issue. And finally, and once and for all, solve the Cyprus issue, press Turkey to solve the Cyprus issue, because, as the ambassador said, the answer is only in Ankara. National interest, my foot. Turkey has no national interest on Cyprus. Does that mean because we have national interest, on Cuba, we're going to go invade Cuba tomorrow? It's a sovereign country, and it was invaded and illegally occupied. Therefore, it may be 40 miles off its coast, but it's not part of its border. And therefore, no matter what national interest it thinks it has, they don't apply to Cyprus. We thank you once again for coming out today, and we look forward to having you next time. And please, we have a new forum on Monday where we're going to be discussing the Council on Foreign Relations report that was issued regarding Turkey and U.S. relations. And the speaker there will be Ambassador Patrick Theros, former U.S. Ambassador to Qatar, and that will be taking place at our offices, 1220 16th Street, this Monday, the 23rd, as part of our noon forum. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, and we look forward to seeing you next time.